If you don't know me already, I'm Bethany. Over on Instagram, I'm Brambling Bethany, and my blog is bramblingblog.com. Brambling is kind of, it was originally meant to be like rambling, because I tend to talk a lot and ramble on about things. And it's just kind of stuck, and that's where we are even today. A vlog around Copenhagen, which went disastrously because I broke my camera within about 2 hours, and it took several weeks to get it fixed. So we're trying something different today. I say different, you may well end up broken anyway because you are balanced up at the top. A very precarious pile of books. I need to get a tripod, I think, if I'm gonna keep doing this. But here we are. We're very, very close to the end of 2019, and I've read a fair amount of books this year. I'm part of a book club which meets near where I live. I live in Manchester, but this book club meets in Stockport, which isn't very far away. And it's really, really great. It's been really fun, and it's opened me up to various different books and genres that I wouldn't have even gone near otherwise. I'm a classic fantasy lover, and there is a little bit of that in here because, you know, there's always gonna be. But this is my top books from 2019, and they're not all published this year, not even close. I'm not even sure if any of them were, but these are the things that I've absolutely loved and would recommend to absolutely anyone. So the very first book I wanted to talk to you about is definitely not new, but it's Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. Now this is a bit of a classic. It's 26 prose poems following the Prophet al-Mustafa. There's something there for absolutely everyone to relate to, whether it's love and marriage or grief and loss, but he talks to people about all their different problems and responds in a way that is quite healing, which, you know, he's a prophet, it's kind of part of the point. It really connects with kind of the human psyche. It's something that I think everyone will find something in here quite moving. I had a little cry when I was reading this. I've read it twice now, and it's really an excellent book. I can't, if there is one book you go away from this and read, it should be this one, because it's tiny, it's short, it's fine. You can read this. And it won't change your life, but it might make you think a little bit. So book number 2 isn't actually mine, but oh my god, I can't wait to show you this, the state of it. Look at the state of this book. This I believe, I've been told, is cookie dough. It's been dropped in the bath. It is falling to pieces. This was lent to me by a friend. She calls it the breakup book, and it's been through her entire circle of friends and now me, and I will be giving it back to her so she can pass it on. She's one of those friends who loads of people kind of go to when they need a little help, and apparently what she does is give them this book. This is Pear Shaped by Stella Newman, and it's really very good. It looks like crap. It looks like the worst kind of chick lit from the cover, but it's basically a woman who works for, it's basically like Waitrose or M&S, you know, making desserts, and her trials and tribulations in love, her realizations of, you know, some men are scumbags and some men are not, and it is the perfect breakup book. It's excellent. If you haven't read it, give it a chance, especially if you're going through a rough time with relationships and love and romance, because it's bloody great. I don't want to give away too much, but it's really good. I mean, you can tell it's really good. Tears, bathwater, and cookie dough are all over it. Okay, next up we have House of Names by Irish author whose name I am reluctant to pronounce, but I'm gonna say Colm Toibin. Irish people, please let me know how we're saying this because I've no clue. But basically, this is a retelling of the story of the sacrifice of Iphigenia by her father Agamemnon, which is in the Iliad, which is by, you know, the classic Greek author Homer, not Simpson. I love a retelling of a classical story. Margaret Atwood did a fantastic retelling of the Tempest by Shakespeare, and she also did the Penelopiad, which is the Odyssey, but from the perspective of Odysseus' wife Penelope, and that's great. I read that a couple of years ago, would recommend it to everyone. But this is Iphigenia's story, or rather the story of her brother, mother, her family that were left behind, feeling betrayed after her father had her sacrificed so he could win a battle. And it's very, very moving, but it's not one where the emotional impact isn't really explored. The Iliad is one of those books that, well, books, you know, it was originally oral poetry. It doesn't really go into detail about the things you'd quite like it to, you know. If you really want to learn about all the different ships, you know, the Iliad is there for you. But for emotional impact of serious, terrifying acts put in place by heroes, it doesn't really go into it. This does. And it's truly moving, really excellent. Read it. Okay, so these next two books I'm kind of going to talk about a little bit together because they have some similar themes, but these are two of my favourite. Drop the book. These are two of my favourite books from this year. The first one I wanted to talk about is Winter of the Witch by Katherine Arden, and it basically follows Vasya. This is the third book in a trilogy, so I would really recommend that you start at the beginning, which was The Bear and the Nightingale, and then move on through to Winter of the Witch. But the third one is the one I'm talking about today, simply because it's the one I had to hand. I don't want to talk about the entire series. But yeah, basically this follows Vasya, the youngest daughter of a minor nobleman in Russia. And this is Russia during the time when they were kind of ruled by the Mongols, and they are expected to pay tribute to them and are kind of just like a puppet state. And it's a really interesting period of time because it's not something that's often talked about in fiction in general, let alone fantasy fiction. But basically Vasya realizes that despite the fact that Christianity is rapidly becoming the prominent and main religion across Russia, the traditional mythological Slavic spirits that she is aware of are actually real, and she has a real connection with them. So the domovoi, which is the guardian of the doorway, the guardian of the stables, the hearth, etc., they're all real, and that religion is slowly dying, and it's kind of having quite negative impacts upon Russia and her home. The other main character is basically Jack Frost, Father Winter, whatever you want to call him, who's a kind of mysterious spirit that she forms a bond with over the course of the books. But they're really, really well done. I really love the setting. I love an original fantasy setting because you don't often get sort of Slavic literature these days, especially not in fantasy, but I think there is a bit of a trend towards it with things like The Witcher, which was written by a Polish guy and features a lot of sort of Slavic mythology. That's really, really good, and it seems to be a bit of a trend. And the next book I'm going to talk to you about is a similar sort of setting. Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik has a similar sort of setting and theme, similar sort of ideas behind it, in that it's set within a sort of generic Eastern Europe in around about the same time period. Naomi Novik, I believe, is Polish-American, I think, but she's fantastic. She's also written a sort of, this isn't the second in a true series, it's a similar sort of setting, but Uprooted was the first book. There's no sort of character links or anything, but it's a similar setting and kind of themes. And I also really recommend that. But she also wrote the Temeraire series, which is fantastic. Really quick and easy reads. I've got them all on my Kindle just for like if I fancy something when traveling, and they're great. They're basically the Napoleonic Wars but with dragons, which sounds stupid, but I promise you it's really great. But this is Spinning Silver, and it's similar to The Winter of the Witch because of that sort of general location and theme and stuff. But basically this story follows two women, Irina, who's a princess who is supposed to be wed to the King of Winter in an alliance, and she doesn't want to marry him, understandably, because they're not nice people. They're kind of terrifying. They're a bit like, the image I got from the book was very similar to, you know, the Nazgul and the Dark Riders in Lord of the Rings. Basically them. Like that sort of intimidating figure on a horse creeping around and stuff. That's the image I got for these guys. But the other main character is Marian, who is, yeah, I'm just checking the back there, Miriam, yes, who is the daughter of a Jewish moneylender, and it delves a little bit into kind of the history of the Jews within sort of Eastern Europe around about this time, and the sort of prejudices they face as well, but in a fantasy context. And Irina and Miriam kind of end up working together, and it's a really, really great story. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'll leave it there, but highly recommend Naomi Novik in general for anyone who wants a relatively easy but interesting and somewhat thought-provoking read. Yes. So, I promised you two bonus books, which I don't actually have with me. First one I wanted to talk about is Educated by Tara Westover, which is the true story of Tara Westover. And basically it's her story of how she grew up in a very radical Mormon family, and very gradually over time the layers start to peel back and she realizes the truth about her upbringing, her life, and the kind of abuse that she suffered that she never saw as abuse when she was younger. She goes to university and then keeps going to university, hence the name Educated. She really starts to form her own opinions, and it's a really true and heartwarming, not heartwarming really, but it's an inspiring exploration of self, identity, and belief. It's not a criticism of the Mormon church, that's not what it is at all, it's just telling her story, and I can't recommend it more. It's a truly interesting, exciting tale in ways, in that you're constantly rooting for her to see the truth, see that this isn't okay, this behaviour, and it's really, really good, and has a happy ending. So, yeah. Because she wrote the book, so she's fine, clearly. So the other book I wanted to talk about was Rachel's Holiday by Marian Keyes. I don't have this one because it's on my Kindle. I mean, I could hold up my Kindle, but what would be the point really? Not much to see. But this was the very last book club read, because I'm in a book club here in Manchester, and it was great. Marian Keyes is not an author I have ever read before, but I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It follows this a lady called Rachel, who is living life, partying in New York, thinking she's got the best possible life in the world, and it couldn't get any better. And basically she nearly dies from a drug overdose, goes back to Ireland, and her family put her in what she thinks is a really swanky celebrity rehab centre. She kind of gradually realises that she's a bit delusional. It's just your bog standard rehab centre, and it deals a lot with addiction, it deals a lot with self-doubt, low self-esteem. It's all about gradually growing to love yourself, and it was a book that I kind of really needed to read. It's something I will be reading again, and I would recommend it to a lot of people, really. I'm getting a little emotional thinking about it, Jesus. But it was a really excellent book, and this was the perfect time for me to read it. I've had a lot going on in my life, and I can't recommend it more. I mean, I can't recommend any of these more because that's kind of why I'm making this video. They're my favourite books of 2019. So yeah, Rachel's Holiday, Marian Keyes. I'm going to link all of these down in the description below. I'll try and link to some independent bookstores and things, as well as to, you know, Amazon, so that you can choose where you want to buy your books from. I am as guilty as anyone of buying from Amazon for the convenience, so I'm not like trying to be preachy. So yes, seven books, 2 of which I don't have with me, all of which are really excellent. Let me know if this was something you liked. Let me know if this was fun. Let me know if there's anything in particular you'd like to see in 2020 as we move forwards into the new year. Mildly terrifying. Yeah, that's about all for now. I'll speak to you soon, maybe. Bye.